Well, hello there, my most amazing artists. I hope that you all are doing well. So this week, we're going to be doing something super cool. We are going to learn how to draw turkeys, but not your typical hand-traced turkeys. We are going to learn how to draw realistic-looking turkeys. So, not only are we going to learn how to do that, we're also going to learn about shading and blending. So what is shading? Shading is when you're coloring, and it starts out really dark and then slowly fades lighter. So, to do that, to make a color look dark, you just press harder when you're coloring to make it appear more dense and dark, and then to make it lighter, you just kind of lightly color, almost like you're tickling the paper. And then blending involves mixing two colors together. So what we'll be doing is coloring with one color, and then taking another color and coloring over top. So for this project, all you will need is paper, pencil, a permanent marker if you have one, and any sort of crayons or colored pencils. Let's get started. So we're going to start with drawing our turkey on the left side of our paper. So to draw the head, we're going to draw kind of like a question mark shape. Oh, hold on, went out of focus. Now we're back. So kind of like a question mark where it goes up and then down. Alright, so now from the end here, we're just going to draw up. It's going to be that little red thing that hangs on from a turkey's beak. It's called a snood. It's a funny word. Alright, now we're going to draw a little circle here to be his eye. Just like this. And then I'm going to draw a smaller circle inside of that to be a highlight. Now we're going to draw his beak. So I'm going to draw a little sideways V on that side, then draw another line on the inside that connects up to his eye, like that. So now we're going to come down here from his beak. This is going to be his neck that starts to go into his belly. So I'm going to draw sort of a curved line that goes outward, like that. So now we'll finish up his head. They have a little design that comes down from their eye to the side of their head. Draw a little like curved sort of petal shape like that. And I'm going to add some lines to add texture. Alright, so now let's work on his body. So from the end of the line, that's the top of his head here, we're going to draw a round line outward. Kind of like an arch. Give him a nice big plump turkey. And then it comes back in like that. Alright, so now we're going to draw his belly. So from this line here, we're just going to draw it down and kind of round it out a little bit, but we're leaving some space to put his wing. So I'll show you now. Just draw a line down like that and leaving a little bit of a space. So now we're going to add a little line to show feathers, because they don't actually have any feathers on their head, but they do on their body. So I'm going to draw a curved line here at the end of his neck to show the start of his feathers. So now let's work on his wing. So towards the middle of his body, I'm going to start his wing and then just draw sort of a slight curved line downward. I'm kind of mapping out where I want it first, and now I'm going to draw just like that. Alright, so we're going to do that same sort of like curvy line on his wing to show feathers. So we're just going to draw upward towards his back and then stop. Just like that. Alright, so now to make the lines for his feathers, I'm just going to draw a few lines that are straight out like that, but you don't want to take them out too far. So you can see my lines aren't super long. They just go out a little bit. Just going to draw a couple more, just like that. Alright, so now I'm just going to draw a little curved line to connect the two lines. So now we're going to add some more feathers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some more lines, but these are going to be more curved. to kind of follow the shape of the wing. And I'm going to make them come out farther to reach the end of that line of the wing, just like this. So now I'm going to close off the lines of these feathers in the same way, just using that little curved shape. So now we're going to draw his tail feathers. This is what's really going to make him look 3D. So what we're going to do is draw some little lines that kind of fan out. So I'll show you. We'll start with drawing one short little line, and then they slowly get taller and then go shorter again. So let's start. So I'm going to draw one little short line like this, then another one that's a little longer, a little bit longer, a little longer, longest one, and then we're going to start to get shorter again to create kind of like a fan shape. Just like that. So now let's connect them. So we're going to connect them in the same way that we did the feathers on his wing, just doing a little round shape like that. I'm going to do that on each one to make the lines look like feathers. Okay, so now we're going to do the same sort of rounded shape on each little section, but we're going to start towards the middle to give a little pattern to his tail feathers. So I'll show you here, doing a little kind of curved line like that, and another one over top to make a stripe. We're just going to continue to do this on each little feather. Alright, so now I'm going to come back up and do a little stripe on the very top edge of his feathers. Just like this, doing the same sort of rounded shape. And I just wanted to let you guys know that when you're working on this at home, if your turkeys look a bit different than mine, or not exactly like mine, that is totally okay. It is art, and we are learning. So now we need to draw his little toes. So I'm going to draw two lines that come out like this. Now I'm going to draw a little V to connect them. Alright, now we need to add his other foot. So I'm just going to draw another line above that and one next to it like this. And then drawing another V to close it off. Alright, so now the next step is to take a black permanent marker or a regular black marker, a black crayon even, or colored pencil, and we're going to trace over our turkey. So we really want to take our time, and of course if you're tracing and there's still some pencil showing through, you can erase, but we really just want to take our time tracing over our whole turkey. So once you finish tracing your turkey, we are going to color. We're going to use crayons or colored pencils, and we're going to layer them to add some shading and blending to our turkey. So I'm using a red first to color in his head. So now I'm actually going to take an orange crayon and color over top of the red. This will give it an interesting look, make it look a bit more real. Alright, so I'm actually going to go back in with the red and color on the back side of the turkey's head to give it a little bit of a shadow. Makes it look a bit more realistic. So I'm coloring over that. And then I'm going back into the orange on the front of his head. So I'm blending with colors. I usually like to go back and forth. So their beaks are kind of a bluish gray color. So I'm going to take some blue and color in that design and color in the beak. And if you don't have all the colors that I'm using at home, that's totally fine. You could just color this part red or orange if you would like. But now I'm going to go over with the gray and blend them together like this. Okay, so now we're going to color his body. I'm going to take a brown and I'm going to very lightly color. So I'm not pressing down very hard at all. I'm just very lightly coloring his body in. So now I'm going to take my brown again, but this time I'm going to press harder when I'm coloring to make the color appear darker. I'm going to make his belly a little bit darker and a little bit under his wing. I'm not coloring on his wing, just underneath and on his belly, and a little bit around where the feathers are on his neck. So what this is doing by adding this kind of darker color, it is shading, which is going to make the turkey appear more 3D and realistic. Okay, so now I'm going to shade and color a little darker around the top of his wing. And I'm also going to start to darken the color up around the top of his back, but it's going to thin. So it's going to be darker and thicker towards his wing, and then slowly that darker line is going to get thinner as it goes up. So now taking our brown again, we're going to color in the feathers on his wing. We're going to do a really, really light layer, like hardly can see it. So I'm just really, really lightly covering his feathers. And as you can see, I'm holding the crayon farther back. I find when you do this, it makes the pressure of your coloring a lot lighter. So now we're going to take an orange, we're going to color over top of that brown. I'm pressing a little bit harder with the orange, and this will give it kind of a brownish orange tint. now taking that orange, we're just going to go back in and color his little feet. And if you want, you can go back in with your brown and add a little shadow towards the back of his feet. So now we're going to work on his big tail feathers in the back. So we're going to do what's called a gradient, which is where a color starts really dark and then slowly gets lighter. So it's going to be the darkest at the top and then get lighter when it gets down to his body. So I'm pressing quite hard here, making sure the brown's nice and dark. And then I'm slowly lightening up my pressure to make the color lighter. And it'll be the lightest when it gets down to his body, just like that. And then what we will do is take an orange and do the same thing, coloring over top of the brown. So darker at the top and slowly gets lighter when you get towards the bottom. We're going to do this on each little bottom part of his tail feathers. So now we're just going to use the brown on the top, and this time we're going to press down pretty hard to make it nice and dark to color in the very middle section of the tail feathers. And once you finish coloring that in, voila, you have your completed shaded turkey drawing. So remember that your turkeys don't have to look exactly like mine. And I hope that you guys have fun and be creative, and I cannot wait to see your amazing turkey creations.